Hi everybody, this is Jenny C. Back here again to give you the much belated review of the Teen Wolf season finale, um, episode 10, status Asthmaticus or something like that. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm not gonna even try more than once. It was written by the man that I hate the most these days, Jeff Davis, and also written by Ian Stokes. I know nothing about him. It was also directed by Macaulay. I think it's Macaulay. I might be wrong. I'm bad with names. I mispronounce everybody's name, so I totally basically mispronounced it. But to begin with, for this episode being the season finale, it was very, very slow to start. A lot of it was taken up with filler, unnecessary filler. Um, Towards the end, it got kind of good. It was kind of, it got kind of good where I was actually somewhat entertained, even though I could saw the plot holes from a mile away, but it was entertaining. But it then went like, it just sort of flatlined towards the end. He couldn't keep up that momentum for more than maybe like, I would say 15, 20 minutes. So it was, it really was very slow to start. Um, let's see. This episode in particular had a lot of bad things going for it. It did have some good things going for it. I'm going to go ahead and go straight into the good things I liked, or the mediocre things that I liked. Um, Theo, actually, Cody Christian, who plays Theo, was outstanding in this episode. I loved him. He was fabulous. He was cunning and smart, and he just kept up that sort of, you know, really, like, I can't even explain it. He was cunning and smart, and he played Scott like a fiddle. And this episode basically was trying to make us feel sympathetic towards Scott, and I really wasn't. And I haven't really been sympathetic towards Scott in a long while. This didn't really help because he did a lot of stupid shit in this episode. But yeah, Theo was just awesome. And the reason I'm rooting for Theo again is because a lot of these people, a lot of the characters in this series has begun to be, or has been last episode, to be quite dumb. And they do stupid shit, and then they expect for us, the audience, to feel sorry for them. And I've always been like, I don't feel sorry for stupid people, especially people who don't have common sense. So there's no common sense going on in this episode. Not a lot of it. There was like a little bit of it, but yeah. Um do I Oh my god, the way that, again, I'm gonna go back to Theo. The way that Theo was so cunning and masterful. This episode really, really brought to home Peter. It really reminded me of Peter. Like Cody Christian watched all those episodes where Ian Bohen was actually, the villain, and just took notes because he played it masterfully. And I don't even know if it's just Cody Christian himself or it's the writing, that they can't write any villain other than Peter Hale lately. But or they're trying to rehash Peter Hale without, having Ian on the show, because Ian's gone and he's not coming back, I don't think. They did sort of like, try to imply that he and J.R. Bourne will be coming back, but it's pretty obvious at this point that they won't be. So, but he really embodied Peter this episode. And he was likable and sassy and cunning and smart. And I was really here for it, because he was, again, him and Mason, and maybe sometimes even Styles. Although Styles this season hasn't really been talking sense. are using his common sense or being smart or using any of his intelligence. Lydia as well has been not doing that this season. He really was smart. He really thunk Scott, which doesn't take a lot to do. But yeah, I really love his cunning and his sort of, his him just basically taking Scott down a peg or two. Because every time someone does that, I really applaud it, because he doesn't get taken down a peg or two enough, in my opinion. So Theo definitely gets a gold star. I also like that Jeff Davis thought he was so damn smart and so damn clever about these storylines, and in the end it showed that he really wasn't clever at all, because there's so many issues and so many plot holes and so many inconsistencies. This episode really did show that in great detail. I will be going through it in my dislikes more, but this episode really showed me that the bonds between Scott's pack, they're supposed to be so close, really are not. They're not close at all. They never really were close. And this is why, again, the storyline of the breaking up of Scott's pack fails, because they were never close to begin with. Again, I can understand it was like a pack, I understand if it was like the Scooby Gang breaking up. That would have a huge impact on the course of the series. But they are not close like the Scooby Gang was in Buffy. They are basically there for each other by convenience and not by friendship, and it doesn't really have a family feeling towards it. I mean, Scott and Kira were together. Styles and Malia were together. Lydia was by herself. Liam was with Mason. There were just a little bunch of groups together, working together for convenience, and not because they were that close. And so Jeff Davis not even realizing or even trying to build up their pack, and then building up their pack really to where they're a solid, cohesive unit in season 4, and then you doing this storyline. He honestly, this episode shows abundantly how delusional about his own work Jeff Davis is, because he honestly thought that this storyline would work and it would be devastating. It really isn't. It's not as devastating as he would thought it would. Actually, more than anything, the storyline of them breaking apart has pissed off fans even more. And so we're not really worried about the characters as much as we're just pissed off about it, because it was done so awfully. So yeah, this episode, above anything else, showed that he cannot write a coherent, solid storyline to save his life, and I love that. Let's see. Mason. We didn't get a lot of Mason because we don't get a lot of Mason. It's obvious. It's been obvious all season. I'll talk about that when I do my full overview of the season. That Mason's just here for, shits and giggles. Not even for shits and giggles. This there so Jeff Davis can sort of fly that our cast is really diverse flag. And no one's really buying it because Mason is flirting in and out of episodes. This episode was a prime example of it. Although for what he was there, he was again the voice of reason, which I really love. I also love that he has sort of character arc this season. Definitely, he went from being all about the D and making inane comments to actually being an active part of the group, which is what I wanted in the first place. So. The Malia scenes, they're ridiculous, but you know what, the Malia scenes, pretty much, they should have never had a Malia scene this episode, especially when they later on tried to push the Stelia thing, because the Malia, in comparison, the Malia scenes, basically showed that those two, Styles and Malia, have no chemistry, and that they literally have chemistry with everybody else except each other. Very much how I feel like in comparison, Iris and Barry in the Flash are, that they have literally chemistry with everybody else but each other. I feel it's sort of almost the same thing of that. Not that they have the same type of relationship, because they don't. They don't even have near as good a relationship as Iris and Barry has. But yeah, that's how I feel. That they really don't have chemistry with each other, and the Malia scenes basically, once again, was prime example of that. Scott, for once, talking sense. One of my biggest things is that he hasn't been talking sense. He hasn't showed common sense, and for a lot of this episode, he doesn't. But for what he does show, for the common sense he does show this episode, was great. Like the hating, I gave him a lot of shit last episode because of his refusal to change Hayden, because it felt like sexism to me, and I apologize because I was wrong. He basically said that because the bite just doesn't just turn people into werewolves, the bite can turn them into anything, which is stupid, but as been shown by the previous canon in season 4, that is possible. That the bite just doesn't just turn people into werewolves. It could turn you into anything the closest that your spirit animal is closest or your personality fits, it'll actually change you into. So he's right to not change Hayden, because we don't know exactly what she'll be changed into, and that will actually bring a bigger threat to Beacon Hills and to the pack itself. So I actually agree with Scott in this episode, because he gives an actual logical reason why, and we don't see that a lot in this series, and we don't see this a lot in this season. So I am really, really happy to see that from Scott, of all people. Okay, now I've talked about my likes. Again, as always. Again, as always, my likes are lower than my dislikes, or rather, let's say, what I hated outweighs what I liked or loved. I'm gonna take me a sip of water real quick. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. What I hated. I'm actually gonna move this here, yeah, so you can see me a little bit more. What I hated. Scott's whining. I understand that he's depressed, and I try very hard to not make fun or to make light of mental issues, because I have mental issues of my own. I suffer from depression and anxiety, so I try really hard not to make light of that. But it doesn't really feel like depression to me. It feels more like it feels to me more like things are getting hard, things are getting tough, and instead of standing up and picking yourself off your feet and dusting yourself off and going right back to it, he is crawling. I said this, he's doing a Bella Swan kind of thing in New Moon, when she sort of crumples up and sort of stops living, or stop interacting with the world around her. Very much feels the same way with what Scott's doing. It feels very much the same. So it doesn't feel, and it's just whining. Life is hard, life is hard, life is hard, life is hard. And it's really, really hard, and I don't know what to do. And I'm just, instead of just finding a way to fix it or finding a way to rectify it, he just, sits there and crumples up and cries. And I'm just like, I don't like that. I don't like that in real life. I don't like that in fiction as well. So it really just bugged me. again, we didn't have one of Scott's monologues that we had last episode, because that really, some people's like, well, I was glad to see what he's going through. I said no, because it'd been something if that monologue actually moved and it actually was able to push him into doing something productive, but it hasn't. So no, his monologue does not get points in my eyes at all. But that's last episode, and I've already talked about that. So let's move on. At one point, after getting his ass kicked by Liam towards the end, he goes home, and after that cliche Scott and Melissa scene, and I'll talk about that later, but he's at home and he's like depressed, and he's like, I've lost everybody. I'm like, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. If you lost everyone, you would not have Malia out there. Although, you wouldn't have Malia out there. You wouldn't have Styles out there. You wouldn't have Lydia out there. Instead of you just going home and licking your wounds and crying about how you have no one, why don't you check on the rest of your goddamn pack? Your pack's just not, Liam, and that's it. You got at least 2 or 3 members of your pack out in the wind, and you're just sitting there fucking crying and acting like a little whiny bitch and not doing anything. It drives me fucking crazy. Do something, Scott. Jesus. And he's supposed to be the hero. He's supposed to be the person that's pushing the plot forward. He is not. And inaction and whining and just, not doing anything really drives me crazy, really frustrates me, And then compare him later to Derek, and I'll go into that later. It's just, and him trying to say that he's better than Derek, and I'm just like, no, you are not. And I will give you the annotated lists of why you're not better than Derek. Oh my God. Yeah, he's a shit alpha. This season showed above anything else why he should never been an alpha in the goddamn first place. It's the supermoon, and I will talk about why the supermoon is stupid, but I'll tell you, it's the supermoon. Even if it wasn't a supermoon, it would be a full moon. He doesn't. You know what? I'll talk about the supermoon later. Okay, but the reason why he's the shittiest alpha ever, he doesn't teach anything. Liam is new to his pack. He's been 6 months to a year since he's joined. We've only seen a few scenes where he's teaching Liam anything. He's not keeping up with his pack at all. He's not keeping. He has no idea what's going on in his territory at all. I mean, he should have been kept on track on what's going on with the Nemenin. He didn't even do that. He doesn't know how to delegate or, use his resources. He has Satomi right across the way, and instead of going to her, who is an experienced, alpha, and asking for help, he doesn't go to her. I bet you that Satomi doesn't know a goddamn thing what's going on. Not really. She doesn't know what's going on. They act like Satomi, for the most part, does not exist. And I'm like, you're sharing territory with Satomi. There's no reason why you should be doing this by yourself. Especially if you're going up someone as big as bad as supposed to be the doctors. But he doesn't use his resources. I've said this, Sticky Keys has said this. He does not know how to use his resources. He does not know how to delegate. He is not a good leader at all. And I hate that Jeff Davis is continuing, because he's so fucking delusional, because he can't see outside what he wants to see, is that he's basically, especially in this season, but in previous seasons, cut off Scott at the knees. Scott refuses to do any real sort of work and any character development or development of his character or evolve. And And that's what's really, holding him back, because especially this no killing thing. I can understand him season 2 being like that, but not evolving 2 or 3 seasons later is what's really dragging him down as a character, because he was boring to begin with, but he could have, became more interesting over time with a good writer. He is not. And that as another reason why he sucks as a writer, and is another reason why he sucks as a writer, but sucks as a character and sucks as a leader as well. Let's see. Oh, I bitched Jeff Davis out over Twitter. I think the day before yesterday, about his interview with the Hollywood Reporter. I didn't read his interview. I was going to read the Hollywood Reporter interview, but something just popped out at me, and I decided to go read it. And I was going to spark it. I didn't have energy. This is the first week my kids go back to school, and I'm trying to balance the blog, because I'm doing things doing things offline with the blog that you guys are not seeing. And so I'm kind of busy with that, and I'm busy with my writing stuff, that other sort of, freelance writing stuff. So I'm pretty busy right now. And so I decided not to go ahead and do that, because I didn't want to waste my time on this crap. And then I read what he said, and I actually analyzed what he said, and I was incensed. I was angry. I wanted to get on a bus, drive all the way to Los Angeles, knock on his door, and start whacking his balls with a goddamn cactus. I was so goddamn mad. I was like, you fuckers. And I think I sensed a whole bunch of Derek shippers, Derek fans, who are like, the fuck you say? Because he says in his interview, and I don't have the goddamn, link to it anymore, because I forgot to save it or bookmark it, and it's on my Twitter somewhere, and I can't find it, but maybe you guys can find it, where he states that he wants to do a Degrassi, which any Degrassi fan knows, and I'm not, and never been a Degrassi fan, but I've known people who are Degrassi fans, and so I've heard their gripes that the last 2 seasons of Degrassi particularly are off. The last 2 seasons, but the newer seasons of Degrassi are horrible, because they replaced all the new characters all the old characters with new characters that we could care less about. And that was one of the biggest issues with Degrassi. So he wants to pull a Degrassi where Liam is the teen wolf, and Scott takes over Derek's role and becomes the new Derek. There's a fundamental problem with that. Scott will never have the length of tragedy that Derek has had. Derek is a born werewolf from a family that's basically werewolf royalty. He doesn't have like maybe 2 years experience, because it's only been like maybe a year or 2 years since the series began in the timeline. I'm not kidding you. So at most, Scott has 2 years. Derek has like 25 years of experience as a werewolf. Yes. He's also a born werewolf from a long legacy of werewolves who've been in that territory forever, and I really hate that the Hales no longer have any sort of claim to that territory anymore. That really pisses me off, but I won't talk about that. I'll talk about that later. But Derek has that. He's actually trained his own pack. Wasn't always awesome at it, but he trained his own pack. He's been screwed over. He's been not even screwed over. He's been, let's say what it is. He's been raped twice by 2 people that he loved, raped, and then, one of them destroying their own family, one of them just raping him and using him. This man has went through so much, has such a wealth of character and background to him as a character himself, There's no way that Scott, who's, I don't give a damn if he's a true alpha, who's only been a werewolf for 2 years, can even live to match up with that. I'm sorry. Derek will always be Derek. I don't give a damn what you, because you know what's hilarious? Jeff Davis did so much to try to raise Derek, especially season 4. He took away his family, he took away his pack, he took away his alpha status, he took away his being a werewolf at one point. But Derek will always be more loved than Scott. He cannot do that. He could have made Scott awesome. But since he's a shitty writer, he could not write Scott effectively. This is why Teen Wolf fandom is the way it is, because he could not write Scott effectively from the get-go. And that's why he will always be, at best, a secondary character trying to be a primary character. That's just the way it is. And Jeff needs to get over that. And that's the reason why he is sinking so low, because he cannot get over the fact that he cannot write Scott effectively. Sorry. Let's see. Let's talk about the supermoon's madness. Now, it's actually a real phenomenon in astrology, I would say. I didn't know that. I thought he pulled it out of his ass, but it actually is a real sort of phenomenon. So that's one thing he got right. The massive mistakes he hasn't got right. This actually could have been interesting. I thought with a stronger writer, it could have been very interesting. But Scott and Liam really don't pretend like this is a threat. For much as they're trying to say that it is a threat, they don't show that it's a threat. So it's, again, telling me and not showing me. And reason why. Liam is growling and acting a damn fool, especially towards Melissa McCall, who is not only Scott's mother, but she's a squishy human. And instead of saying, you know what, Liam, especially because he was acting aggressive, Scott should have said, come on now, let's go and let's walk you up somewhere. He doesn't do that. He just lets him do anything. He didn't even say anything. He didn't even reprimand him. It was Theo, again, who said, dude, you need to back the fuck up. Again, you have at least two weirs, if you're not counting Theo, in your pack, and yet you did not prepare at all for this huge event where it makes all the weirs stronger, all the weirs faster. That is your duty as an alpha. Yet you're not doing that. Oh my God. Oh, and let's talk about Malia. He doesn't call Malia. He doesn't talk to Malia. He hasn't talked to Malia all episode. But it's the day of the supermoon, and he does not talk to her and tell her, you need to come here so you can go train you up, and so you won't hurt nobody. But no. Because Malia is aggressive as well. She's got a lot more control than Liam. But Malia herself is aggressive. That's her whole characterization. And yet, he did not think to have a place and prepare a place for them to be locked up. That is some bullshit. That's some bullshit right there. Let's move on to the Stelia moments. I'm not a fan of Stelia. There's people who are, and God bless you, but that'll never be me. Because I cannot stand Malia. She's more bearable this season because we get to see her have an actual personality, and Theo definitely makes her more likable to where I could sort of like her. I think, again, if it was another actress playing her, or even another writer writing her, should have been awesome. But since Jeff Davis is writing her this episode, she was awful. So we're really lucky this season that we saw almost zero still young moments. We had one at the beginning of the season with that whole them kissing in the rain bullshit, and which was basically screaming no, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, them kissing in rain again, the rain thing. And it makes it even so much worse is that California is in the midst of, and was at the time of the filming, in the midst of a drought, and they were doing that. But yeah. We get not only a Toyota placement thing in the scene, but this happens while Roscoe is being taken away. And oh, poor Roscoe. He just, that damn car can't catch a break. And I also want to say, I'm going to do an insert right here. I have a feeling that next season, Styles will be driving a Toyota. And I'm like, you have been assimilated. I'll never forgive them for retiring the fucking Camaro. I'll never forgive you. God, I love that damn car. But yeah, just, it's them, to me, the whole Roscoe thing is them yet again stripping away any characterization that differentiates the characters from each other. It feels very much, we are the Borg, you shall be assimilated kind of deal. And I'm just like, you guys, I'm just like, whatever, I'm done. But in the midst of this, he calls Malia, he calls his girl, and she picks him up. And when they arrive at the station, because he's so, guilt-ridden, he's going to go and tell his father everything he did, she reveals that she knows about Donovan. Yeah. And I'm like, I know I was known to be like, the fuck you say? And her reason for not telling telling Styles or confronting Styles or even comforting Styles, because Styles for the last 5 episodes have been really freaking out, really stressed, really high strung, and instead of saying I know and I'm here for you, she says nothing. I'm like, first of all, that makes you a bad girlfriend. But 2, I call bullshit you even knowing. You didn't know. You did not fucking know. You didn't even guess. Because you're not that smart. She guessed from the bite mark that it was Donovan. Give me a goddamn break. She didn't even know about the whole situation in the first place. She didn't know that he was cornered that night and he was in the high school that night. She knows nothing. Seriously. Seriously, she knows nothing. But what makes this moment so fucking disgusting is because they used this moment, this whole issue with Donovan, to push that Celia are so perfect for another, because she just knew. But like an idiot, he doesn't realize if she knew and she knew that he was going through all this shit and she didn't say anything, she didn't comfort him, she didn't do anything. That actually doesn't actually submit that they're perfect for one another. It tells me that she is a shitty girlfriend. Because believe me when I say, if I knew that something was going on with someone I was dating or with like that, I've been like, tell me what's wrong. Or even if I knew what was wrong, I'd be like, I know what's wrong and I'm here for you. No, she does none of that. Yeah, I'm supposed to believe they're perfect for each other. Get out of my face. Thank you. Also, again, another reason why I would like to go to California, to Los Angeles, and take me a cactus and just start beating him with it. Jesus. Oh. Another thing with the Donovan issue is that it's so contrived, especially with last episode. He was throwing his ID into the trash. The sheriff finds it, or someone Melissa leaves it on his leaves it in an envelope on his desk, because the janitor finds it. Like, I knew they would, and that begins to sort of show that Styles was lying. So to further isolate Styles, so they can make it easier for Void Styles to become something, they're going to do that. But the whole thing is, it'd be one thing if it would happen organically and it isolate Scott and Styles from everybody that he loves. But no, that whole thing was so contrived because the Styles, or the Fanning Styles I have in my head, the Fanning Styles that I love so much, would have been like, huh. First of all, he wouldn't be guilty at all. He'd be like, okay, whatevers. But also, the Fanning Style that I love, and not this pod person on television I'm watching, would have been like, huh, let me cut up this stuff and throw it around the school. Or let me lose it conveniently around the school. And then when someone picks it up, it would be by the school. And that further cements my alibi. Oh my God. But no, Styles is a dumbass and throws it in the fucking trash. And it's so contrived. And it's so forced. And again, Jay Davis is so fucking delusional to think that was masterful. It really wasn't. Oh, God. Let's talk about the marriage scenes and then Lydia. When marriage began, I didn't really have a problem with marriage. I didn't really care. It was boring. I really didn't care. I still don't care. You know? It's boring. But what pisses me off about the marriage scenes is that Lydia, no. Okay, I'm going to try it again because I'm really pissed off and I'm not talking correctly. So, yeah. Okay. It's boring, and it's a boring het love scene. And I'm gay, and I'm used to being bored by boring het scenes. I mean, that's like every day, all day, you know. But what really pissed me off was Lydia, how they've been doing Lydia this season. You got to remember, Lydia started off as being a head bitch in charge. She was in charge, and she worked it, and she was snarky, and she was smart, and she worked that. She worked that for 3 seasons. But now she's dumb as well. They gotta dumb everybody down to make the season storylines work. So they take everything that I've loved about Lydia, her being snarky and smart and just fabulous and fierce, and they reduced her to this damsel in distress. To this sort of like weak, wimpy, girl who's all about her man. Her storyline this season is all about Parrish. She has no real autonomy. I hope I said it right. Autonomy by herself, of her own. Her whole storyline revolves around Parrish. That really pisses me off. It further tells me that they have no idea what to do with Lydia, and so they're going to just screw her over more and more because they don't want Stydia to happen. And I'm like, you know what? I never seen nothing like it where they do that to, like, everything that we love. They did it with the Sharissa thing. I don't get it. And then she is once victimized again, mind raped, because again he is rehashing Peter like it's nobody's business. Theo basically mind rapes her to find out where the Nemenin is and thus where the other Chimera's bodies are, and that makes her comatose into the comatose person that we saw in the beginning of the season, which was supposed to be sort of a full, God, I can't. Supposed to bring everything back to the beginning, and the full circle, bringing everything back to the beginning, and it really wasn't. It was very, very sort of just ridiculous, and it pissed me off because, again, how many times are you going to victimize this woman? How many times? And also, what also pisses me off is that they've been tooting that she is a BAMF all season long. They've been giving her, we first saw it when she was trying to escape Eckenhouse. We also saw it when she was training with Parrish. Yet all those training monologues, training montages, all those scenes that have happened so far have been for nothing because she just was slapped around and victimized. She didn't fight back at all. They were for nothing. To me, it felt like they were hearing the criticisms that Lydia has become a damsel in distress. And another reason why I think that they choose a Banshee the way that they did. Not because it was awesome and they were going to do something awesome with it. No, they wanted a legitimate reason for her to cry, or to make a further, and to further sort of back off the damsel in distress thing. But yeah, she's comatose. She's been victimized. She doesn't fight back at all. She doesn't kick his ass or even try to kick his ass. I mean, she didn't even try to scream. And I know it happened so quick, but the moment she realized that someone was up, she could have screamed, and that would have instantly disabled him. She didn't. She didn't try to fight back at all. So it further goes to show me that all those training scenes that we've seen were worth nothing, and they were worth nothing of our time. It was a waste of our time. I mean, and it was obvious. And this is not even 90s sort of era feminism. Because, it's not that. It's Fox feminism. We make her badass, but we won't give her any autonomy of her own. We won't let her be her own person. Being a strong female, we won't let her have a backbone and save her own self. She'll always got to be saved by a man. This is one of the biggest issues that Teen Wolf has. And again, I say this is supposed to be a world without sexism, without homophobia, and without racism. But they sure in the hell show a lot. Oh, let's see. Let's move on to Liam and Scott and the breakup. So, first of all, the hashtag was dad versus son. First of all, it's ridiculous. The reason I know that it's fanon that the relationships between the person who sired the werewolf who sired them sired them or turned them has a paternal sort of relationship. That's why you've seen a lot of Derek fanfics where either Styles will call them his pups, or Derek, because he's, the stepmother, or Derek himself will call them pups or his pups. It's a fanon thing. It's also sort of similar to the vampire thing, the vampire sort of most recent vampire myth of, a vampire thinking of the people that they've turned into, their children. But it's kind of weird that they would take that because in canon that's not even the thing at all. In canon, it's basically, you turn and you're a mentor, but it's not a father-son thing. But for them to put that hashtag there, it was just ridiculous. Because it's fanon, not canon. And it seems to me that Teen Wolf and the writers don't know the difference when the fandom does. The whole Liam and Scott thing. So, Liam is pissed that Scott won't turn Hayden, and Hayden is dying. And instead of being with her, he sort of loses his shit. Because, again, Scott didn't even... That whole fight would have been avoided if Scott had locked him up, like he's supposed to have. But he didn't. So, Theo traps him with Mountain Ash, and I'll talk about why that's stupid. With Mountain Ash in the Hell Library. And he lets Liam in. And Liam wants, to take Scott's power because he wants to bite and save Hayden. This further shows that, again, the relationships between the packs are very shallow. It's very easy to break up. Theo didn't have to do a hell of a lot to break up this pack because it was very shallow. The foundation was very shallow in the first place. And so it further shows that for Liam to kill the person that is his mentor and his friend and is supposed to be like his big brother, to kill him like that over a girl that you haven't even been dating for a couple weeks maybe. Yeah, you liked her for a couple of weeks. I mean, you liked her for a little while, maybe for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe since the beginning of the year. But for the most part, he's only been with her for like a couple of weeks. But he's willing to kill Scott, a person that has been a part of, has been like the only family other than Mason that he knows or has, over a girl that he's been in love with or liked for over a few weeks. And then they tried to do this where they tried to compare Liam and Hayden to Allison and Scott, and I'm like, no. I had fundamental issues with Scott and Allison, but Scott and Allison are, for the most part, one of the best written canon romances in the whole entire series. And yeah, that shows how blatantly how the show's romances are basically horribly written. But for them to go ahead and do that and try to do that on top of everything else really pissed me off, especially because they've been rehashing other seasons all this season. And especially rehashing Peter Hale and rehashing a lot of the hysteric scenes. It's just it just feels like they have nothing original anymore. Let's see. Oh, so I will talk about this later, but Hayden is dying again, and Melissa's taking care of her, and Melissa tells her that she's dying and he needs to go. He tells Mason that he needs to go and get Liam because she only has a few minutes to live. Mason goes after him and finds Liam almost killing Scott, and Mason makes him stop. Again, I say this. They're so afraid. I don't know if it's Dylan Sprayberry himself. They are so afraid of making a legitimately well-written gay romance that they're willing to throw Liam to Hayden, who they have zero chemistry with. I honestly think it felt to me that it wasn't Hayden who was his anchor. It was Mason. I always felt to me that Liam and Mason would have been very well suited to each other. I actually felt that with Danny, Lydia, and Jackson and Danny, that they would have been very well suited with each other. And this further shows that. And so Mason watches Liam leaves his dying alpha on the ground, bleeding to death, and runs for Hayden. He doesn't feel torn about it. Doesn't really feel like, like he wants to stay, but he wants to go to Hayden as well. No, he just flat out runs and leaves Scott dying on the floor. Again, they're supposed to be so close. And then Mason's there, and Scott dies, apparently, and is clinically dead. Melissa runs in, and she's like, "You're too strong to die like this, Scott." And he does CPR and bangs on his chest and says, "You're an alpha, roar!" And the most cliche thing, he wakes up, and he's red-eyed, and he's fainted out, he's roaring, and he wakes up, and I'm like, again, this is some bullshit. I know, it's supposed to be a serious, very intense, dramatic scene, and it was just awful. And normally, I love Melissa. I love the actress who plays her, even though she stands really hard for the show. But I generally love Melissa as a character. But that was not her best scene. Oh, God. It was so hammy, and so it was just stupid. I was like, give me a break. From ridiculous scenes to really pissed me off. I mean, I was livid, especially if you guys have seen me on Twitter. I was really pissed off. I'm not a mythology buff. I'm not that good, but I really love mythology. It's one of the things that continues to draw me to things like Teen Wolf was the mythology, because I love werewolves, and I wanted to see more focus, because it was all about vampires at the time when Teen Wolf eventually came off, and I really am attracted as a writer to the urban paranormal sort of genre, and also as a part of the audience, because I really love the mythology, and I really love seeing people put a twist on an old mythology. So, but Teen Wolf has a real bad habit of just raping mythology and making it awful. And so what made me really pissed off is that they touched one of my favorite myths. The Wild Hunt. Wild Hunt is one of my favorite myths. It's actually pretty popular because I'm pagan, so it's really popular in the pagan circles as well, as thus you will see by the Wild Hunt blog. But yeah, I really love the Wild Hunt. It's one of my favorite myths. It's not really, I can't explain it. It's not Celtic in origin, I don't think. It has other, they have it in Welsh, which is also Celtic, but yeah, in Welsh and in Norse mythology, and having a few other things. But the one that I'm most familiar with is the Celtic myth, and for them to even touch that at all or mention it at all pissed me off, because I'm like, you will not respect this myth at all. Like, you haven't respect all the other folklore and mythological things at all. Supernatural, as much as I have issues with Supernatural, and I will never forgive him when they killed that pagan gods, because it's the whole Christianity is win bullshit, whatever. But yeah, I have more respect for what Supernatural does with mythology than what Teen Wolf does with mythology, because at least you can see some form of respect there. I see none of that in Teen Wolf at all, and I'm like, that pissed me off. I don't know much about hellhounds, but yeah, even that pissed me off. Parrish is a hellhound. Everybody was thinking, oh, it's a phoenix. It's obvious, a phoenix or a dragon. So doing that would have been awesome. They make him a hellhound. And yeah, there's some people that were like, oh, he's a hellhound. And I'm like, okay, what else? But I have a feeling that they're just going to piss on it, like they pissed on every other legend. They're not going to make it awesome. Parrish's storyline this season has been boring as hell. I mean, yeah, he's taking bodies to the Nemenin, but that's it. That's all he was doing the whole, season. I'm like, I'm bored. Do something else. They're not going to do anything with Parrish. So for them to even, I don't know why they tried to make Parrish anything in the first place, because they're not doing anything with him at all. At all. What they're doing, I mean, his whole storyline, the whole season was mediocre. And I'm like, I can't even say anything. I talked about this earlier, but I'm going to talk about the most insecure hospital ever. So Hayden is dying. They're sat up in the back of, because we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. Hayden's dying, and they take her to the animal hospital. No one knows where Deaton's is. No one has mentioned Deaton for like 3 episodes so far. I mean, but again, Scott and Deaton are supposed to be close, but if I didn't hear from somebody that I was that close to for like that long, and I'm taking to take care of their animal clinic as well or their business as well, I would be checking up on them. But we had no indication so far in Canada that Scott has been checking up on Deaton or looking for Deaton or questioning why Deaton hasn't called him at all. So, um, so, Scott Scott is, called his mom, and rightfully so. That's actually one of the most decent and smart decisions that he has made all episode was to call his mom. He calls his mom, and she tries to take the mercury out, and that fails. And then she decides to later take her to the hospital. She easily breaks into the hospital. There's no security there. Again, I ask, how the hell does she still has her RN license at all? Because the shit that she does is blatantly illegal, and anywhere else she would have been fired and she would have had her license stripped away from her. But yet she's, doing this. And so they take her into this empty sort of surgery room, and Hayden, who's on her deathbed, asks about her sister, because this is like the first time in I would say 3-4 episodes that she's even talked about her sister at all. And now she doesn't want to die without her sister. Again, this would have been a touching moment if she actually thought or mentioned or said anything about her sister previously, or acted and you made any indication that she was close to her sister as she's trying to make it. She there really aren't. I mean, her sister has not even asked about her or had an APB on her or her car, and she's been missing for days at this point. I don't get it. Or not even days, like a day or two. So, but yet we're supposed to believe that, Hayden and Deputy Clark are so close, and they're not, and so this doesn't make this particular scene as dramatic and poignant as it could have been. Hayden dies not in the most cliche way ever, but she just dies. It doesn't last long. Spoiler alert. It doesn't last long at all. It lasts over an hour, so that basically strips away all the sort of pain and the drama that could have been at her death, because they only had her die for about an hour, maybe not even that. So a couple scenes, she was dead for a couple scenes, and then she was alive again. And so that once again strips away that sort of drama. Okay, I talked about that. Whew. Let's get down to the wire, guys. After mind raping Lydia, he drags her, a comatose Lydia, to the Nemenin, where all the clear mirrors are at, and are laying around the roots. And also, he has no problem finding the Nemenin at all, which makes them stumble, Lydia and Styles, and then Parrish stumbling around the Nemenin last episode, completely ridiculous and redundant. And so and again, Scott has no, I can't talk today, or I can't talk again today. Scott didn't even think to patrol the Nemenin at all, and he would have found the bodies easily. And again, another plot line is easily solved. He is taking a serum from the doctors, and he ejects them into the dead chimera, and they arise one by one, again from the dead. And he says something to, "I'm your alpha now," which kind of reminds me of Derek, season 1 at the end of season 1 finale. But yeah, It wouldn't surprise me if it was a rehash. But for him to take the Chimeras as his pack, that automatically invalidates his whole motivation for the season, because it's been pretty much said by him and by everybody else that his motivation for the season is not just any pack, because he got that easily anywhere else. It was Scott's pack because they're so easily predisposed to evil. And so, but instead of taking the pack and taking them by force, he takes the Chimeras instead. He actually had a chance at one point to kill Scott. He doesn't. He goes and he sort of puts his nails into Scott's stomach. He could have just slashed his throat and called it a day. I mean, it worked for Derek Hale. Yet they didn't. They could easily took his powers, and that power would have easily been transferred to Theo. And instant alpha. But he didn't. So this basically invalidates all of that motivation that we have built up through the season. I don't get that. Why did you do that, Jeff Davis? I'm serious. Why did you do that? That was dumb. What he should have did was killed Scott, because that's the only way that should have ended, was to kill Scott. Kill Scott, take his powers, and walked off. But Scott is still an alpha. Also, by right, Scott shouldn't still have his powers. That would have been interesting, because he would have been pushed back to square one, and he would have had to literally work for that for his alpha powers back. But since we can't have Scott actually do any real character development, really any real work, we're just going to leave him an alpha. Again, he will never be Derek Hale. Never. For that particular reason. We're going to rewind real quick back to the earlier season, earlier in the episode. I can't talk today. Earlier in the episode, we're going to talk about the revelation that he is the first Chimera, but he's not full wolf at all. He's half coyote, and that would have been cool. Oh, and he's half. Oh, hold on, let's pause that. That would have been cool, but he can, by being half coyote, which again makes no sense, because Mount Ash is supposed to stop all supernatural creatures, not just werewolves. But because he's half coyote, he can manipulate and touch Mountain Ash. That's dumb. Because it actually breaks their earlier rules for Mountain Ash. Okay. He also reveals that that's why Malia is so drawn to him, is because he is 50% coyote. Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk about, I'm going to skip over some things now. Let's talk about Parrish. So Parrish is activated, and he's activated in the police station, and Styles stops him from getting shot by the deputies, which is stupid, because he got right in the middle of the deputies' gun line of sight, and anybody worth their salt would realize not to do that. You could have just told them to stop from the sidelines, but he had to get in the middle of that. I don't get it. So he goes and he follows Parrish, and he follows him to the parking lot and watches him go. I don't know if he follows him anywhere else, because we don't really get any indication for the rest of the episode. Also, how the hell are you supposed to follow him anyway when he doesn't have a car? I mean, Malia was his ride, and Malia is off going after the other Chimera, because Theo convinced her to go after them because they need her. And so she gets her ass kicked, which is hilarious. And she then is saved by Brayden, who I could have lived without seeing her again. I could have so lived without never seeing her face ever again. But Brayden comes back and basically tells her Malia that she's a dumbass because all of her plotting, which there was no plotting to be seen on the entire season so far. She was looking through photos. That's it. She didn't do any real true plotting of the down of her mother's death to kill her mother at all. Yet I guess the Desert Wolf is psychic and realized that she wants her mother dead, and she got wind of it, and so she is coming to Beacon Hills. So that's going to be all what season 5B is going to be about. Yeah. I also like to point out, we still don't know what the hell the Desert Wolf has done with Deaton at all. It's almost like everyone's forgotten that Deaton actually fucking exists, and he does exist, yet we get nothing about what's happened to Deaton. And it's been like 4 episodes since then, so I don't know what's going on with that. And then we get to the very end, and this is the most unclimactic ending I have ever seen. It's supposed to be a cliffhanger. So we get to the doctors, and they're doing some renovation with the sledgehammer. They're, breaking up a wall, and to reveal this mural, and all the while shouting or saying Lebret over and over again, like they're chanting it or something. And then we see like a mural of these two monsters fighting each other, and then fades out. Now, Lebret, I did some research, or did not. I read an article that Lebret's supposed to be the biggest, baddest monster ever. But for someone who didn't read that particular article, we still don't have any canon acknowledgement of their motivation at this point. And it was like, basically, this episode was the equivalent of a 10-minute man, or not even a 10-second man. You think you're going to get yours, and then he just, putters out. This is what this episode basically is. This episode is the prime example of why Jeff Davis is such a shitty showrunner. Again, I would say this. I've been a part of the Monster Zero Productions community for a while. I've been lurking there, and they do awesome work. They don't get paid for it. They get some respect, but they learn and evolve and grow, and they write generally good shows that I would think should have been filmed. I would take anything what they're doing right now from what I'm getting on television for the fall season, but they do generally good work. And they can outright Jeff Davis. These people who are amateurs for the most part and not getting paid for their works can outright Jeff Davis any day. I just read a fucking fic that took everything that Jeff Davis gave us over the last 5 seasons. Everything from Peter, from The Bite, from Hayden and Brett and Mason, and they took it and made it awesome. They literally made it awesome. This one person, yet he cannot write a coherent, good episode to save his life. He used to be able to write a somewhat good, solid episode, but lately he just doesn't give a shit. This whole season is prime example of him not giving one goddamn shit about not only this fandom, but his characters, his story arcs, nothing. He does not give a shit. He tries to act like he gives a shit, but he doesn't give a shit. All he gives a shit is getting a paycheck at the end of the day. So he could literally write shit, and the shit that we're getting, and get a paycheck at the end of the day. And people's like, oh, it's where this season is the reason why it got such low ratings because it was an error with the Nelson Ratings Company or whatever. I'm like, no. The reason that it got such low ratings is because this episode was literally shit. I wouldn't wipe my ass with this episode. Okay? Also, Criminal Minds people, all you fans from Criminal Minds, you fucking dodged the bullet because, oh my god, he is awful. Fandom agrees with me that this episode is, first of all, confusing, but awful. Absolutely awful. Yeah, there's the sheeple who are like, this is the best episode ever. I'm so pin and needles and I want to see what's happening in season 5B. But most of fandom is like, no. No. This whole season was filler. It was filler. They didn't even try. They didn't even try. And the ratings tell the real story. This, by definition, this episode should have been the highest rated episode of the season. It isn't. It's actually the lowest of the series and of the season. So, yeah. And that's my baby, and I'm going to get her in a minute. But, and as I'm looking through Tumblr, I see that a lot of people in fandom don't know what the hell what they just saw. They had no idea. They had no idea what it was the whole point of that whole episode. I just don't get it. Ooh, forgot my glasses. So I think that's it. I think I covered everything. Oh, and I had to pause this to go take care of my baby. So, if it pauses throughout this video, sorry. Yeah, that's it, basically. I think I went through everything. I'm making sure I went through everything. Yeah, I went through everything. I want to thank you so much for watching and for sticking in with me this week. This week has been really hectic. Again, my kids went back to school this week. So everything is sort of, we're trying to get used to everything, and so I'm trying to adjust my blog and the blog with my real life and with my actual work and with my writing, with my fan fiction stuff too. So it's been like a struggle. So I really want to thank you guys for sticking in with me and continue to come back to my site and and doing that. I've said my opinion. So I'm going to ask you guys to tell me yours in the comments. Let me know what you think, because I've pretty much am just kind of dumbfounded at the low quality of this particular episode. And I want to know if you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, tell me why you enjoyed it. And if you hated it, tell me why you hated it. Also, just be civil, and because I will, put the ban hammer on you guys if you're not civil. So please be civil. But yeah, tell me what you think. I will be back, not this week, because coming week, I will be off. Offline, because I'm taking a vacation. I need a vacation. I so need a vacation. I need those 6 months to sort of fortify myself for season 5B. So, I will be off from the 31st to the 7th of September. So, and then I will be back with written posts. Written posts. I will be reviewing Doctor Who, season 1 of Doctor Who, because I wanted to get ready for the new premiere, which we will be reviewing. I also will go ahead and review or post a video review of Flash. It's episode 13 something. I don't know. Episode 13 and on. Also Gotham. I gotta post my review of that because I've been sort of like sort of busy with other things, so I haven't been able to finish watching Gotham. So I'll be doing Gotham as well. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Mwah! Bye.